In the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen, Mahito says a line to Yuji Itadori shortly after breaking him. This line is, "You are me." This line is when his character changed forever. When Mahito told this to Yuji, a lot of people thought he was just saying typical villain dialogue, but the more you think about it, the more it actually makes sense. Mahito points out how Yuji probably doesn't remember how many cursors he's killed, and how he can't remember how many humans he's killed. It is there that we as viewers are reminded of the fact that the cursors in Jujutsu Kaisen genuinely believe they are on the right side, that they are fighting for the greater good. They serve the same purpose to their respective sides, and it's only when Yuji beats Mahito to an inch of his life that he admits,
"I am you."
Yuji's character after this arc changes. Yes, in a literal way. I mean, he's got scars now, he's a lot stronger, but his general attitude changes. While he does act the same, it's obvious his mindset changes to an extent. Yuji Itadori, as well as other sorcerers, are eventually entered into a battle royale-like tournament called the Culling Games. And in said tournament, he gets into a fight with Akari, a student that was kicked out of Jujutsu High. In said fight, he admits to him that he's just a cog in the machine to eradicate curses. Yuji's mindset becomes more and more revealed to us when he fights Higuruma, a lawyer who's lost confidence in the Japanese court. Someone who doesn't want the Culling Games to end because he believes that he himself is in the position to spare the innocent and kill the guilty. And Yuji's newfound mindset is finally laid out to us when Higuruma uses his domain, a courtroom where nobody can fight. And the target of the domain must prove themselves innocent to a crime they committed. The first time, he's proven guilty of entering a casino while under the age of majority, but when he's asked for a retrial, he's told this. Yuji Itadori stands accused of mass murder in Shibuya on October 31st, 2018. And while he takes a slight pause, he admits it. He doesn't even try to defend himself. Even while Sugino was the one who committed it, as far as Yuji is concerned, he's guilty. Even back in Shibuya, he says that he's nothing more than a murderer, and he's fully convinced that he killed those people, not just Suka. And this is when Yuji's true beliefs and a way of thinking start to peel off. Yuji's always been so willing to go along with things as long as it goes along with the promise he made to his grandpa. But after what happened with Mahito, he doesn't see himself the same anymore. He simply sees himself as a tool for Jujutsu society, a cog. And this mindset fits pretty well into something called the Anagram, a tool I'd found while trying to improve my writing skills. And the more I looked into the Anagram, it's essentially a system that breaks down personality into 9 core types, each driven by different core fears and desires. Remember, it's not about your interests and quirks, but your basic fears and desires that affect your thoughts and actions. And there's a community around typing characters by their Anagram and tend to typically type Yuji Itadori as a 9. 9s are people who generally crave peace and hate tension and tend to go along with things just to keep the peace, something we see in Yuji a lot. And while I do agree with this typing, I think Yuji's arc after Shibuya is very 4-coded. 4s tend to want significance and identity above all things else, and at their unhealthiest they try to narrativize their lives. If their whole family dies in a car accident, or even if they know it was just a freak accident, they're thinking, this is how it was meant to be, I'm just meant to be alone. They tend to think things like it's just how it is, or it's just fate, but I don't think it's a 4 either, because Yuji doesn't really seem like he wants to be unique or have any personal identity. He just wants to be useful like a 2 would, and 2s tend to find their purpose from helping others, something we see in Yuji at his worst moments. He just lets himself become a tool. But what's the point of my rambling about anagrams? Well, my point is Yuji tends to come up with a narrative in his head and goes along with it. At first he was doing everything for his grandpa's last wishes, and Principal Yaga even points out when he hears Yuji's reasoning was simply to honor his grandfather's last wish that it's dumb. Even though Yuji ends up giving him a different answer, I still feel it's his core motivation due to just how much it's referenced. But like I said, Yuji doesn't just accept bad things that happen to him as bad things, he just slides them into his narrative. Yuji seems to be suffering with a deep sense of survival's guilt, as well as feeling responsible for all the deaths in Shibuya. The thing that got him to even keep going was the fact that Todo rephrased the idea of him continuing to fight as his punishment. And that's what I like about his character so much. It is kind of a dark twist on the typical hero's journey most shonen protagonists go on. Even just his needs, on or underneath the surface, don't seem like what you'd expect from a typical shonen protagonist. I want a proper death. I want to be useful. I want to atone for the deaths I cause. These aren't things you'd expect to hear from a Naruto or a Goku or a Luffy, and that's why his character is so good. On the surface, he seems like just your average happy-go-lucky shonen protagonist, but the deeper you look into it, he's a lot more than that. Because of what he did, he doesn't want to stand out. He doesn't want to be happy. He wants to be a martyr. But wait, Mahito isn't the only person who had the comparison drawn between him and Yuji. So did Ryomen Sukuna. Yuji's character development after the Culling games is very gradual, not something you pick up easily on the first read, but Yuji Itadori, after more and more bad things happen to him, and things only seem to get worse and worse, his friends dropping left and right, he begins to understand something. While he does find purpose in the act of eradicating Sukuna, after hitting a black flash, something that's often used in the story as an allegory for a step towards growth, he unlocks his domain expansion. And it's there he shows Sukuna where he grew up, the things he did, the memories he's had. He's showing him his humanity, and he's finally reclaiming the identity that he lost. And it's there he confirms it, all of it, what we were just talking about. He used to think until recently that understanding your role was what it meant to live, and dying and fulfilling that role was what it meant to have a proper death. But that was a lie. Roles don't really matter. Like walking the dog or providing for a family, even those roles, you still eat, shit, and sleep, or get sick and be disconnected from everyone else and leave nothing behind. And even that small fragments of a person's life hold value beyond the memories that create their identity. It's not about how you die, but he can't forgive someone who can't see that value. And that people, unlike how he had said once and acted as before, aren't tools and aren't born with predetermined roles. And that he can never truly tell who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. And he sees how Sukuna just doesn't care, and for that, he pities him. And a few chapters later, when Sukuna is dying and refuses to enter Yuji's body, Yuji tells him. He tells him those 3 words: "You are me." When people, including myself, first read this line, they didn't feel like it really fit and was like a lazy way to connect it to Mahito's death, but it really isn't. Sure, their personalities aren't alike, but when Yuji was at his lowest state, he was similar to Sukuna in the sense that their identity didn't matter to them. They simply went about their life in a way they chose. While Yuji threw himself into conflicts in an attempt to be useful, Sukuna simply acted and did whatever he wanted. Sukuna didn't see the value in life, and Sukuna didn't understand what it meant to be human. Sukuna didn't see the value in his own identity as a person. He saw his value as a curse and relished in it, similar to how Yuji saw his value as a sorcerer. But also similar to how Gojo wanted to be seen as more than just the strongest like he was by his best friend. Sukuna never had anyone who saw him as a person, and so he relished in being a curse. Even in his final moments, he shouts, "Don't look down on me, I am a curse." But in the end, after death, Sukuna considers if he's ever reborn, to walk a different path in life. Yuji grew from accepting the negative parts of his life and his own identity, and while he did end up briefly embracing it, he learned to grow past them. But it's because of that he pitied Sukuna, because Sukuna was lonely, like Gojo had known all too well. It's lonely at the top. If there's anything to be learned from Yuji's story, it's that trauma doesn't always make you stronger. It can at times, but it can also just leave you with an empty feeling like your identity or your purpose is gone. But those are just things we give ourselves. Purposes aren't predetermined, and regardless of anything that happens in your life, we all share one thing. We are all human, and sometimes being human is just enough.